Welcome back to MVM. Today we are going to be taking a look at the covert world of espionage agents in Shadow Network from Talon Studios. This game takes place in a version of the 50s where you are taking on the role of agents traveling across the world trying to collect the most intel and ultimately score the most points over the course of 4 rounds. Now this is a game that plays up to 5 players, and you're going to see the 5-player game set up here in front of me. There are some small changes when you're playing with less than 5, which I will talk about, but you're going to see the board here in front of me, and you're given a map of the world. Each one of these locations is essentially a worker placement spot. Each player is going to have a number of agents in their color. You're going to start with 2 agents on call, and then 2 agents that can be recruited over the course of the game. Each one of these locations is a city divided into A's, B's, C's, D's, and E's. Each one of these cities is going to have a number of actions, and they're kind of random. There's a number of A's that are going to get shuffled and distributed to the A's, the same with the B's, all the way through. Now you're going to notice that there are basically 2 tiles for every action spot, and I'll kind of talk about how that works in a second. In addition, you're going to see a number of contract cards off to the side. Each player is going to compete to try to complete these contract cards over the course of the game. You're going to be dealt 3 to start with, and you're going to choose 2 to keep in front of you. And you're going to discard 1 and take some starting intel. So I could start the game with 1 yellow and 1 green already, and this would just go to the discard pile. Now each one of these contract cards is going to give you points if you complete it during the game, a lesser amount of points if you complete it at the very end of the game because you will get a chance to cash these in, and also a penalty if you don't complete them. So you don't want to just take a ton of contract cards that you can't complete. And up at the top, you're going to see a number of handlers. Each one of these handlers is effectively an action that you can take on your turn. They're going to allow you to trade in intel, which is kind of the core crux of this game. You're going to be competing with other players to gather intel, and you're going to see over here a variety of different colors of intel that all reflect different aspects of intelligence, from military all the way through technology. You're going to be collecting these and bringing them back onto your player board. Everyone is going to have a player board where they're going to be able to collect these basically briefcases, which represent the intel. And then over here on the side of your player board, you're going to have a conversion chart. It's going to tell you how many pieces you need to complete an actual briefcase. So I need to collect 3 yellow tokens to turn in for 1 briefcase. And you'll see that you can actually create some multicolored briefcases down here, and that's kind of important. Now each player is going to randomly start with 2 handlers drawn from the top of the starting pile, and you're going to choose one of these to keep, and you're going to slot it into a handler space on your board. Handlers give you a ability, like I said, that can be used a number of times. And you're going to see both an exchange and uses on the handler, which dictates both how they're used and how many times you're going to get to use them. The last thing you're going to see on the board are a number of these black market tokens. There is a black market deck that's going to have 1 card for every location that's out on the board. At the start of the game, you're going to flip over 4 of these location cards and place the black market tokens out on the board. This is going to be the locations you can travel to in order to interact with the black market at the end of your turn. And there's a little guide here that's going to show you everything you can do. Now, I did mention that in a smaller game, you're actually going to be changing gameplay a little bit. You're actually going to be taking these locked tokens and putting them on specific locations based on the number of players. So you're actually cutting some actions out when you play with a smaller group to keep things a little tighter on the board. The other components you're going to see are over here, the finished briefcases, and you're going to see some victory point tokens. Now, the way the game works is pretty simple as far as what you're doing on your turn. You're simply going to take one of your workers and you're going to place them on one of the worker placement cities on the board. When you do, you're going to take whatever the tile tells you that you take. For example, if I go here, I will get 2 green intel and 1 victory point. Now, if you look again on the player board, you're going to see a number of spaces up here. This is going to be where you can hold the intel, and you can only hold a certain number of intel at a time. In fact, you're going to start with part of this locked off, and you're going to actually have to pay to unlock this and hold more briefcases. But every time you take one of the briefcases, that's where you're going to place it. So I'll take my 2 green briefcases and I'll place them on my player board. Then, every time you visit an action spot, you're going to leak intelligence out to the greater community. The bottom tile is going to tell you that I have to put one blue briefcase piece on an E location. So I can come to any of these E locations and place a blue. And I have to put 3 across B locations. So I'm going to come into B and I'm going to place 1, 2, 3 pieces of intel on B. In a future turn, if I come here and take this action, I would get this yellow in addition to the 2 yellow and 1 green that I would get anyway. So I'm going to place all of these here in my little briefcase storage spots. And of course, then I'm going to leak more information out by putting a green on an A and a blue somewhere on a C. So you can see how the board is going to start to fill up with these tokens as you kind of spread out and start taking more actions. Now, in addition to just gaining intel, some of these are going to have you place out victory point tokens that can be captured by other players. Of course, all of this is going to be collected and placed in front of you on your player board. That's all you do on your turn. Now, while the other players are taking their actions, then you actually get to do a variety of things on your player board. And this is kind of can be done simultaneously because you're looking at all of the different actions you have in front of you. You're looking at your different contract tiles to see if they can be used, and you're looking at your encryption ledger to see if you can make any of these combinations. For example, if I really wanted to, I could spend 3 yellow briefcases, which I've got here, to come over here and create a complete briefcase, a complete yellow briefcase. Now, you'll notice a few things on the player board. You're going to have a few boxes that are listed with some victory points. If you manage to completely fill a box, you're going to score those victory points immediately. And you're going to notice over here, you'll get some points if you manage to fill up this entire row. And then you're going to see these little wavy lines. These lines represent milestones. Every time you cross one, for example, if I had built 1 blue briefcase and then immediately built a second blue briefcase next to it, I just crossed one of those wavy lines. I will get to score one of those milestones. In addition, I can use my handler. This handler says pay 1 green, and I'll put it down there to show that I've used it to get 2 yellow and 1 purple. So I can bring 2 yellow and 1 purple onto my player board as well, with the goal of eventually kind of filling out this encryption ledger here in front of me. Now you can also complete contracts on your turn. This one, for example, needs 2 yellow briefcases and 1 combination green and blue. So if I was looking down on my player board here, I could trade in 3 more yellow potentially to make another yellow briefcase. And I can trade in a half green, half blue, which you'll see here requires 2 green and 3 blue to come over here and make that half and half briefcase. And that's combining these 2 types of intel together. So you'll get to basically guide yourself. You'll know what kind of intel you want to get because you know which intel combinations you want to make on your board. So if you complete one of these contracts, you come over here and you actually remove the intel from your board and you replace it with these gray finished briefcases. This is saying that you have cashed in all of this intel and it is no longer yours to spend. However, you still do get the points for having completed these and they still build out to your rows. You can never cash in the same briefcase twice. So what that means is if you're looking to complete contracts, you need to double check and make sure that you have enough spaces left to actually build out those briefcases. Now, you're going to find times in the game when you run out of contract cards, maybe you've completed all of them, or you want to get new handlers. Every time you use up all of your handlers' spaces, that handler is then removed from the game if it was a starting handler, or returned to the pool for another player to come and recruit. To get new handlers, to get new contract cards, you have to actually come out here to one of these black market spaces. You do all your turn normally, but at the end, you'll get to cash in at the black market. You'll get to make some exchanges of your briefcases. You can potentially purchase new agents. You can gain new contracts, and you can come up here and recruit handlers onto your player board. And these are going to give you more actions and exchange rates that you can spend on your turn. At the end of every round, you're going to discard all of those black market cards and you're going to reveal more for the next round, and you're going to move around these black market tokens as you need to. And you're going to play this over the course of 4 rounds. Now, I had mentioned during the game that you can complete these contracts anytime. At the very end of the game, you're going to get one last chance to cash in all your briefcases, do everything you'd want to do on your player board, use all of your handler abilities in order to complete as many contracts as you can. You're going to get less victory points for them now, but you're going to avoid taking the negative penalties. So you're going to add up all of the little victory point tokens that you'd accrued over the course of the game. You're going to add up all the victory points you'd scored from your contract cards, from completing out the player board and the different boxes and sections. And then you're going to lose your negative points for not completing certain contracts. When all that is added up together, you're going to be able to figure out who ran the best espionage agency. So this is a look at Shadow Network, which is coming to Kickstarter. So take a look at the Kickstarter page to see what all the final components are going to look like. I'm using prototype pieces here for the briefcases and stuff, so you'll want to see what everything is going to look like in the final. So thank you so much for watching along with me, and take care. Please like, subscribe, and follow us at MVM, and I will see you next time.
Hey everyone, if you guys enjoyed this video, please consider dinging the old bell below. That is going to help notify you of new videos that are uploaded to our channel. And as always, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and please consider watching all of our videos, one of which you can see right here to my left.